Hey guys, welcome back to the cavern. It's xBundok here. Today we're painting up my first 100mm figure. I didn't take too many befores. I just did some zenithal priming on him. This is a little clip from a video I had made the other week, if you guys remember. He's not going to be for anything. He's not for campaign. He's just kind of a for funsies paint. I got him on sale over off of Etsy. I'll leave the shop link down in the description as I usually do, in case you guys are wanting to pick him up on your own. He had very minor assembly that you had to do when he came in. Essentially his hands weren't attached, and real simple joint, easy, fix on there. I had thought about leaving them off to paint separately instead of having to worry about trying to get into nooks and crannies, but I decided just to attach them and paint them as a whole. So before I did the bulk of this video, I got his base coat of his skin on and some of his armor. Not a whole lot was done before I sat down to actually film this one. I kind of worked on this guy over the span of 2 days this weekend. If I would have just sat down and worked through the whole way, it probably would have taken a whole day for this paint, but we had some things going on. Unlike the last video, I'm not going to list the paints as I go through them, just because I'm not going to do a full step-by-step. So here I'm going to show you the bulk of the paint that I end up using for this figure. There are some onesies and twosies that I didn't include that I might have just used for some spot corrections or things like that. Otherwise, these are all the paints I used, and mixed them up for some specific blending whenever it came to shadows and highlights. And we can sit down and get started. I know I used a lot of citadels on this one, but I bought the kit. I'm going to go through them. I actually picked up some of the new Army Painter Fanatic paints this week, and I'm hoping to do a little review on those. I'm not a huge fan of their layer paints, but maybe we'll see how the new ones go. So, as you can see, we have our base coats on him. What we're going to do is we're going to fill in some of the other base coats on his armor and a little bit of his hair and things like that. And yeah, let's get started on him. Here's a little question for all you DMs, GMs, referees out there. If one of your players wants to play a specific race that might give their class a buff, so like right now I'm playing a half-orc Barbarian, obviously they're just set to go together. If you have a min-maxer, how much do you force them to use that in their role-playing? For instance, my half-orc isn't inherently evil. However, I do have him kind of based off of a chaotic neutral, like he's working for acceptance, but if the human folk won't accept him, then screw it. He's just kind of do whatever he wants to do, So I often sit down and look, and, even if it's class specifics, folks that might be playing a druid that aren't necessarily in tune with nature, or they took that class just so that they can have certain feats or abilities but don't actually play the character for the class. How much do you guys try and enforce that? How much does it bother you if somebody doesn't play the character as they should? Oh, and this bit here, I know the spikes probably were originally supposed to be like metal, but I really like the idea of him harvesting bones from enemies and, you know, grinding them and sharpening them to attach onto his armor. I thought that was just a grand idea, so that's what we went through with that color scheme there, just so you know. Also for the metallic, I did use that bronze copper color. I just prefer it. I know a lot of people prefer gold on orcs, but I'm a fan of the bronze. So yeah, DMs down below, leave me some comments how you feel if your players, like, if you feel that they're picking something for a buff versus actually using it for their character, and how much do you enforce that they use their background in their character when it comes to interacting with the world and the adventure around them. I mean, I don't think it should be absolutely pertinent to the gameplay, but I also feel that players shouldn't forget who they're playing. They shouldn't forget what their build is and why. I mean, I could pick a half orc for a barbarian just because I know I'm going to get some strength buffs and feat buffs, but then if I'm playing him, you know, nice as pie, going around cuddling puppies every day, it's not. I mean, I guess you could have a half orc cuddling puppies every day depending on how he's brought up, but you get what I'm getting at here. It's just a curiosity I had about what other people thought about it too. Alright, so here's our biggie boy with all of his base coats on. I didn't do any highlighting, any shading, any tonals, anything like that. I just wanted a flat color down. Because what I want to do next, I want to do the washes and then do tonalities and highlights and then do small washes on top of those to make them blend in. I'm going to use the standard washes that I've been using. So I have the Trogdor shade, which is the purple, the Athonian, which is the green, the Acryl black wash, and then the soft tone. Soft tone will probably be used for the fabrics on here. The black wash I'll be using for his armor and weaponry. The Athonian is going to be on the skin tone, and then the Trogdor you might just kind of work in there for funsies to see how things will blend through. I'm still getting down the feeling of highlighting. It's not, you know, something I'm stellar at, but here he is after all of the washes. So I didn't want to go too heavy, but I almost wanted, it's probably going to sound cliche, like a Borderlands kind of style. You know, I grew up reading the Sin City comics and the Hellboy comics, and I like color, but I also like it to be kind of messy, kind of brash. So that's the vibe I wanted to go for. I've seen people recently doing black, like deep, just solid black edge highlighting to kind of give it that comic feel. And that's something I'd like to do in another larger figure in the future, but I'm not feeling 100% capable with it just yet. I want to get better with just keeping my colors on before I try and go for an effects finish, if you will. So here's a little mini lesson on how I do smaller highlights. Again, I'm an amateur. You can listen to other people and you don't have to take it as gospel. It's just what I do. So I have top down. I have the light coming down. So his triceps here, and the feed in for his elbow, and then the muscles in his forearm are going to have a little bit of highlight. So I have a tonality that is slightly lighter than the skin tone I have on there, and I'm going to put that towards the middle of right where that highlight is going to be, so the brightest point of that highlight. And then I'm going to go and take the base skin tone that I had down there before Excuse the guy outside, he's an absolute pain. I'm going to take that base skin tone I had on there before I did the wash, and I'm going to go out to in when I want to blend it. You don't want to go in out because you're going to be pulling that lighter color out further than it needs to be. If you go out to in, you're going to blend that skin tone probably right about where you want it with that lighter color. Of course, you can always go in, muddy it up a little bit around the edges, make it bleed smoother into itself. You can add more or less depending on how much you feel should be hitting it. And you can also build it up. So if I wanted to, I could have gotten a third tier color. So if I wanted something lighter or maybe more of a yellow base versus a green base to accentuate that even more, I could have. I didn't want to personally, just because I'm thinking, okay, his armor's going to be shading it. It's not going to be super bright. But the best I can say is, remember, when you're starting, once you get that first color on there and you're coming in with the base, just outside to in. Otherwise, you're going to put way too much on it and it's going to almost look like a cell shaded image. If you're thinking back to like digital art, it would kind of give you that same feel. And again, that's just how I do it. I already have it done on the leg here. It's just a little bit, not a lot. So we're going to go in and get it a little bit on his fingertips, his arm where I did. We're going to do 1 or 2 more sections there, and the top of his other arm. I may or may not do a little bit on his forehead. Technically speaking, I should, but we'll see how I feel about it once it comes to detail. So this is where he's at with a bit of our highlighting done. I also got some of the PaintedOrNot paint, that glitter gradient paint, and I put it inside the grooves in his battle axe to make it look like it's ensorcelled in a little bit of way. Very happy with how he's coming. He feels like he just jumped off the page and you're just hanging out, he's stellar. I think he's a really fun print to paint. I absolutely highly recommend it. It's not very difficult. This zoom-in made me realize I didn't get the edge highlighting on the leather on his axe, so I'm going to have to go back and do that after the video. You're looking at so many things, there's always going to be something you forget. And yeah, he's just solid. So we're going to go back in for his base. I had done this a little bit ago. Just tans and browns with some black and brown washes over top. We're going to go in and add a couple of highlights, and I also use that same gradient on his base. And this is our finished figure. I think he's excellent. I mean, there's other words I would choose, but I want to hopefully eventually get this channel monetized, so I can't throw too many swears in there. But he just looks the way an orc is supposed to look. He's just solid, just running, just full on bashing everything. I'm really happy with how he turned out, and I had a lot of fun painting him, not a ton of stress. As always, thank you all for watching. If you're interested, like and subscribe to come back, leave some comments down below, and take care.